Alright, Flix Talkers, so if you guys have seen a couple of my live streams, you know that I'm a huge Quentin Tarantino fan, and this man has been on the press junket for the last couple of weeks, and it's been awesome to really just kind of pick this guy's brain, just hear his thoughts on podcast, on video. I saw him on Joe Rogan's podcast recently. That was the big one where he just talked for a couple of hours. Joe Rogan really picked his brain. And I also got to check him out on Mark Maron's podcast, WTF, which was an awesome time. But we have the man, the myth, the legend. He's a unique individual, whether you love or you hate his films. He is definitely a unique director and person, to say the least. Now, I thought it would be cool to kind of compile from the last couple of days a couple of big stories that are centered around Mr. Quentin Tarantino. And I'll just start off by saying one of the biggest rumors that we've all been hearing that he said and they've been marketing is that the 10th film will be Quentin Tarantino's final film. Now, on the Joe Rogan podcast, he did say this is happening. This is confirmed. I just want to be a father, which he is, you know, congrats to him. He has a 15-month-year-old son, and he wants to spend, you know, he's an older dad. So this is something that he's never had. He has a stable relationship. He's with someone he loves. He talked about, you know, that he's had some bad relationships in the past, and this one finally stuck. And he has a family now. So that's what he wants to do in his later years. Once again, more power to him. I think the fanboy in me doesn't accept that. The fanboy in all of us don't accept that. We want, you know, these guys that we love and grew up on their films to continue down until they die, like Clint Eastwood status, right? But he also has talked about that he wants to go out on top. And what that means is that most of his movies have been really well received. Whether you like them or not, they've been received really well by critics and the majority of the fans, including myself. So that being said, he has kind of put that rumor to rest on the Mark Maron podcast, saying, no, that was something that the tabloids took out of context and they ran with it. Clickbait, it's fake news. So I was a little confused. Maybe you guys could confirm that, because on Joe Rogan's podcast, he said it's happening. On Mark Maron's podcast, he said it ain't happening, and he kind of chuckled and laughed it off. Who knows what's to say after the 10th film, but he did proceed to talk about that he does want to do a couple of plays. He just dropped his novel, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is a totally different story than Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the film. So if you guys do like those characters, pick up his 400-page book that just dropped, I want to say about a week ago on Amazon. It's a paperback, so he did it totally old school style. I actually might pick that one up myself and force myself to read a book. It's been decades since I had to read a book for whatever reason. So yeah, I might check that one out. And he's really been on the press junket tour, like I said. Now, along with that, you put a microphone in front of this man's face, he's gonna have some hot takes. So we're gonna go over a couple of things that a lot of people didn't like or that were deemed blog worthy. I will just say that. But there are some good stories attached to this man right now, and I'm gonna go over one of them, guys. And we're talking about what happened behind the scenes of Quentin Tarantino's Vista Theater deal. Okay, so if you guys aren't aware, a couple of days ago, Mr. Quentin Tarantino purchased the Vista Theater in LA, but it's an iconic theater that's been there for a while, and he's gonna start showing movies there. So if you guys are fans of movies, classic movies, and in film form, if you guys even know what that is, I don't know if my audience is a little too young for this, but we're going to kind of go over this really quick, brought to us by Los Angeles Times. Even as many locals reopened, it's been a tumultuous few months for fans of film going in Los Angeles, especially with the closing of the ArcLight chain. Man, I was so pissed off when that happened. And the uncertain future of the historic Cinerama Dome. And speaking of that theater, that was where I went to my first Hollywood premiere. So if they were to close that, I went right before the pandemic hit. Yeah, March of last year. I can't believe it, guys. Time has really flown by. Then on Monday came the news announced via a podcast that Quentin Tarantino had purchased the yet to reopen Vista Theater in Los Feliz, adding to his profile of local venues alongside New Beverly Cinema. So he ain't new to this. He's true to this, guys, for sure. Quentin Tarantino does own a movie theater, and he's really spending his money and reinvesting it into something that he loves, and I really do appreciate that about this man. So the Vista has been owned by Lance Alspa since 1997 as part of his Vintage Cinemas group, which also includes the Los Feliz 3 and Village Theaters in Coronado. In a phone call with the Times on Monday afternoon, Alspa confirmed the sale to Tarantino. "We're pretty excited and happy about it," Alspa said. "It seems like a good match. We're looking forward to helping him bring his vision, helping him with that for an extended period of time. We'll be there to try to participate and assist with that. It's a win-win deal for everybody." So very cool. I mean, he has some people that know that theater through and through over 20 years now, over 20 years, and almost 25. And it's going to be awesome that he is going to have the help, but he's also going to be the face behind these theaters. I really didn't even know he had one theater, and I'm a big fan of his. So this is going to be awesome, guys, that he will be opening one pretty close to home. I'm about an hour away from LA, so it won't be far of a drive. All right, so this guy Alspa also said, "I would not have handed the keys to the Vista over to just anybody," and this is why this is important details that we're going to get into. Though he declined to give details on the Tarantino deal, Alspa did allow, "You have to know when there's a good opportunity." Now, when I hear that, guys, I automatically think, cha-ching. Tarantino gave him an offer he could not refuse, and especially in these times, pandemic times, you gotta keep those doors open, especially if this is something that's iconic, historic to LA. You gotta go to almost the highest bidder. And he kind of gets into details of other people that wanted to buy this place and turn it into something else. So we'll get into that. But I think it was more of a money issue. And I think once again, Tarantino offered him something he couldn't refuse. All right, so let's get back into this, guys. "I just felt that the time was right for this transaction," said Alspa. "I would not have handed the keys to the Vista over to just anybody. Over the years, I've had people that have been interested. They wanted to buy it," said Alspa. "There was a company that wanted to turn it into a brewery," which you guys know are huge, very, very popular, very successful for the most part. "Believe it or not, they had offered a fairly large sum of money to buy it, and I didn't want to do that." They just didn't offer it as much as Tarantino. So I think that with Tarantino's background, his own love for film, I just think it's a good idea for both parties. I think everybody's happy about it. Now, Tarantino did say, "I do think boutique cinemas will actually thrive this time," while downplaying amenities such as luxury seating and food services that many chains have been touting to entice audience out to the movies. "I got a living room. I want to go to a movie theater." Now, I absolutely love that. Once again, another reason why I love Tarantino. He's straight to the point. So if you want cushy, stay in your living room, watch it at home. But if you want that old school theater experience, these boutique theater experiences they're talking about, you're gonna have to go to one of these theaters, guys, and sit on these uncomfortable ass chairs with some old school popcorn, and that's it. Nobody's coming to serve you food. No bar probably. There's not gonna be any of those amenities. Also, it's probably not gonna be purchase tickets before, you sit down type of thing on an app. You're gonna buy tickets at the, window ticket booth, and you're gonna sit your ass in that seat, whatever, first come, first serve, right? I would be thinking, at least. So I'm very interested in this, guys. I would love to go when this theater opens. It says they're gonna be renovating the whole place. So July or August of 2021 is what they're looking forward to shoot for. You guys let me know. Are you excited? If you're in the LA area, are you guys going to be checking it out? Let me know in the comments below. All right, guys, now jumping over here to avclub.com. It looks like they did post a little more spicy hot takes from Mr. Tarantino himself. So it says, "Over the weekend, Tarantino's hot take summer continued." I love that, hot take summer. With him going on Dax Shepard's Armchair Expert podcast. I have to check that one out. And sharing some thoughts on the American movie theater industry. For starters, he says that he bought Los Angeles Vista Theater on Sunset Boulevard, which he says he will show new movies that come out where they give us a film print. Now, if you guys are unaware of film print. I know I have a younger audience sometimes. This is a 35mm example of The Shining, guys. So it's very, very cool to see this. Even myself, I mean, this is iconic stuff, but a lot of theaters nowadays will, like majority of them, guys, unless the independent theater, are doing digital projection. I'm not going to get into the, details of it because I honestly don't know 100%, but there are people that prefer film to digital, and Mr. Quentin Tarantino is definitely one of those. I couldn't really tell you the advantages to using film print over digital. I believe that even him showing Hateful Eight, when that did come out, he wanted to show it in a certain print on film because the scope was wider or something like that. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to go see that one. I did get to see it, I have it on Blu-ray, so that's a great movie as well. But I guess, I would love to know the advantages of a 35mm print, for example, over a digital transfer. So if you guys are film buffs and you guys know about film print, please leave it in the comments below. I would love to know. All right, guys, now last Quentin story coming off of his hot take summer. We have Mrs. Shannon Lee, Bruce Lee's daughter, going in on Quentin's responses from the Joe Rogan podcast. Now, this one was not even a hot take to me. I mean, it was his opinion, and yes, she is the daughter of the iconic Bruce Lee, but I didn't think what he said was out of pocket, out of mouth. Like, I didn't think he was wrong for it. So if you guys have no clue what conspired from this or what I'm even talking about, let's kind of get into it a little bit. Now, back when Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was released in 2019, Bruce Lee's daughter Shannon Lee criticized a scene in which the martial artist challenges Brad Pitt's stuntman character Cliff Booth to a fight, calling it disrespectful and a mockery of her father's legacy. Now, after the director again dismissed her critique in a new interview with Joe Rogan, saying, "I can understand his daughter having a problem with it. It's her fucking father. I get that," he said. The younger Lee has penned an open letter in The Hollywood Reporter addressing the issue. Now, I'll go over the kind of the meat and potatoes of this because it got really, really lengthy, but she did have, some fiery hot take words for him. She says, "I'm tired of hearing from white men in Hollywood that he was arrogant," talking about Bruce Lee, her father, "and an asshole, when they have no idea and cannot fathom what it might have taken to get work in 1960s and 70s Hollywood as a Chinese man with, God forbid, an accent, or try to express an opinion on a set as a perceived foreigner and person of color." Now, I will say this. I grew up on a lot of Bruce Lee films. I grew up on martial arts cinema in general, just from my father. My dad showed me a lot of Chuck Norris, a lot of Jean-Claude Van Damme, a lot of Steven Seagal, and of course, a lot of Bruce Lee. And I did see a lot of interviews along with all of that stuff. Even my dad was telling me a story about how, I believe it was his uncle, who got to see him do a demonstration, Bruce Lee do a demonstration where he did his famous 1-inch punch. And it was incredible to see this. But along with that comes a lot of behind the scenes footage, a lot of interview footage. This was someone that really carried himself with not a cocky, but confident attitude and demeanor. So the way they portrayed him, in my opinion, was very spot on to what I saw personally in the interviews. So she was a child when he was, in these movies and doing all this press junket stuff. How would she know how he was on set other than stories? That's all I can say about that. But, from what I gathered personally, I thought he had a cocky, confident demeanor to him. Nothing wrong with saying that either. I mean, it doesn't diminish his skills. So she says, "I'm tired of white men in Hollywood mistaking his confidence, passion, and skill for hubris, and therefore finding it necessary to marginalize him in his contributions. I'm tired of white men finding," and the white man phrase keeps going on, "in Hollywood finding it too challenging to believe that Bruce Lee might have really been good at what he did, and maybe even how to do it better than them." Once again, not taking anything away from his greatness. I used to have posters of Bruce Lee on my wall when I was a teenager. I idolized him. he wasn't the greatest actor. I mean, English was his second language. Yeah, he was trying. He really was trying. And I know there's a lot of, stories and stuff like that Quentin Tarantino does talk about, that he didn't get the part for, Kane and Kung Fu. And, that went to David Carradine because of his acting ability. And there's a lot of things that were talked about on that podcast, guys. I'd really urge you to check that one out. She then follows up saying, "Look, I understand what Mr. Tarantino was trying to do," she said. "I really do. Cliff Booth is such a badass and a killer that he can beat the crap out of Bruce Lee." Look, this is also the woman that was trying to get this film, and I think she actually succeeded in getting it banned in China and not shown because of that fight scene. So, character development, I get it. I just think he could have done it so much better. You want to see your dad win, is what you're trying to say. He did something that no one ever saw. Bruce Lee get his ass kicked. What is wrong with doing that? I understand it's kind of tasteless now that he's dead. He can't really say like, "Oh, that was a good portrayal of me, Quentin." I understand that. So some people might think it's, a low blow, a low jab or whatever. It's a fictional movie. It is a fictional movie about a real character. I understand that. But instead, she says, the scene he created was just an uninteresting, to you, teardown of Bruce Lee when it didn't need to be. Once again, I love Bruce Lee and I love that scene. It's not just because I'm a Quentin Tarantino fanboy. I love to see that our beloved heroes of martial arts could be taken down in, once again, a fictional manner. Bruce Lee going up against Brad Pitt in real life? Come on, we know what's happening, guys. It was white Hollywood treating Bruce Lee as well. White Hollywood treated him as a dispensable stereotype. I will say that in his early career, like some of the Kato stuff or what have you, maybe that might have been true. I didn't live through that era, but I know it was a more racist time in Hollywood for sure, and more racist time in general for sure. But that was Mr. Tarantino's creative device that he chose, so he initially claimed. Though now he seems to be arguing that this is actually an accurate portrayal of Bruce Lee and is what would have happened if indeed Cliff Booth, a fictional person and a real-life Bruce Lee, if he were a mediocre, arrogant martial artist, had squared off. Why? I don't remember him saying that in the interview, that this would actually happen in real life. Maybe I missed that part, but yeah, but she does end off saying, in closing, at a time when Asian Americans are being physically attacked, told to go home because they are not seen as not American, and demonized for something that has nothing to do with them, I feel moved to suggest that Mr. Tarantino's continued attacks, mischaracterizations, and misrepresentations of a trailblazing and innovative member of our Asian American community right now are not welcome, she concluded. Okay, once again, this movie came out in 2019 when those attacks were not even happening. So stop with this. I don't. Yeah, he's on a press junket tour for a book. If a podcaster is going to ask him about the movie version, then he has to reply. If they're going to ask him about the Bruce Lee scene, he's going to reply. Okay, that's the reason why this story got brought up, Mrs. Lee. This movie came out in 2019 when the Asian attacks weren't happening. Okay, so I think that's a lame scapegoat. I understand the Stop Asian Hate movement right now. It's very, very serious. The attacks are disgusting. I don't condone any of that stuff, but I think she shouldn't have included that in there. She just wanted to make that the cherry on the, the icing on the cake or whatever, the cherry on top. But, you guys let me know what you think of her comments, and this is kind of the couple of weeks that we've gotten of the hot take summer from Quentin Tarantino. So all that being said, Flicks Talkers, once again, you let me know your thoughts on this story, these stories of Quentin Tarantino. They're all centered around Quentin Tarantino. Good or bad, you guys let me know your thoughts down below, and thank you guys so much for watching this quick news video. And if you guys did appreciate my thoughts, please give me a thumbs up to like the video. It always does help the channel. It's the best way to support the channel, by the way, and make sure you guys are hitting that subscribe and bell notification to always get alerted about future videos like this. Also, if you guys want to stay up to date with the latest and greatest in movie news, make sure you guys are following me on my social medias. I'll leave all that down in the description below. All right, guys, till next video, I'm gone. Peace.